Hi everyone, Susan Blum here. Welcome to Facebook Live. Tuesdays at lunch, it must be my time to be with you every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So, welcome, and I hope we don't have the same kind of connecting issues that I had the last week. I know that we were cut off very quick, quick cut off at the end of our time together, and I didn't really get to wrap up. So hopefully we won't have any problems like that this time. Gosh, I had promised today, so it always takes a few minutes for people to join us, so we'll start off a little slowly and just remind everyone that I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes or so, and then we'll leave time at the end for questions. As you can see, my scenario has changed a little bit. I'm in my office now. I'm pretty much finished writing my book on arthritis. Tomorrow I have to spend the day just editing it, and then we're going to send it in to the publisher. So my Tuesdays at home, where I was working at home, are sort of in the past, and I'll be in the office now on Tuesdays, which is actually an interesting lead into our discussion today about stress. You know, when I wrote my first book, I was so stressed out. I really worked full-time 5 days a week, and then I wrote the book on the weekends. And by the time the 6 months were over and I had finished writing, the book was finished, I was so depleted that I vowed that this time I would set myself up better so that the stressor of writing the book wouldn't make me sick, wouldn't affect my stress that comes into my body. And so it's a good reminder about the difference between a stressor, which is something that is happening in the environment around you that has the potential to cause you stress. So stress itself is something that you experience, right? It's not, the stress isn't, your family member that's giving you a hard time, or somebody being sick, or an overscheduled life, or whatever we want to call. Those are stressors. Those are things external to you. What happens is you can, how it comes into your body and the potential for it to make you sick, that's the stress we experience. And I have to say that I did much better this time, and I didn't end up making myself sick or run down or getting adrenal fatigue or having inflammation, which I had all sorts of effects on my body after I wrote the first book, because I set myself up for ending up feeling very stressed by it. And so this time, the things that I did was I took every Tuesday and Friday at home, and I cut back my schedule at work, and I wrote on Tuesdays and Fridays at home, and it was so much better. And I even took a week off over the summer and just stayed home and wrote. And so I made my work life, my schedule, much more sane. And this really made a big difference. I also got acupuncture every week, and there's all sorts of things that I did. So, and meditating every day, which is a practice that I adopted back in about a year ago, to really help myself do better. So I have stress, sort of on my mind as I finish the book, and the fact that I'm here now on Tuesdays, right, is now because I'm in the office, because now the book is behind me. Today's topic, I was going to talk about a little bit about the effects of stress on the gut, and which is great. We've been doing a whole series of discussions about gut health and what really helps support the microbiome. What's the factors that help your gut be healthy, as opposed to pushing it into a place of dysbiosis, not enough good bacteria, overgrowth of bad bacteria. And on that list of the triggers or the things that push your gut to a bad place, number one is food. So that's what we've been focusing on, talking about food, and your diet is the number one thing that affects the health of your gut. And number two is stress, and how stress comes into your body. So, and I already now just shared with you the difference between a stressor around you and then the stress coming in. And somebody posted on, I think it was one of my Facebook pages this morning, something like a question, but you can't get rid of your stressors. That's true. Well, I wouldn't say that's completely true. That's mostly true. Like I just shared with you, I actually did change my stressor of writing the book. I could have done it a more stressful way, but I made a choice in my scheduling that enabled me to change the level, its ability to be a big stressor in my life, right? So we do have choices. You can, one of my favorite things is preventive scheduling. I always joke about, I always know that if I stick another appointment in on a given day, that's going to be a stressful day. We all know when we schedule ourselves a terrible day, you look at it and say, oh my God, that day is going to be that's going to be such a hard day. Why do we do that? You know, can't that appointment wait till the following day or a day when you're not as busy? And so we do have choices, and I love that term, preventive scheduling. You can look at your schedule and make a different choice, and I really try to mindfully practice that every day. So there are our stressors, and then there's, you know, how the stress comes into our body. And I do, one of my sort of latest sort of way I phrase this, or I like to talk about it this way, is that cultivating one of the goals of dealing with all the stressors around you is to create almost what I call a bulletproof vest. You need to find a way to make yourself bulletproof, to help prevent that stress from coming into your body. It's like a protection. The stressor is on the outside, and you protect it from. You need protection from it coming into the inside. And how do you do that? And the way you do that is by cultivating some sort of a daily mindfulness or relaxation practice that will help your body become more resilient, that will help your mind not absorb the stress so badly and help your body not absorb it. It's like the antidote. And it actually creates resiliency over time. For me, meditating every day has created a lot of resiliency in me, so that when something stressful happens, I don't get sick, or I manage with it. You know, one of the other things that happened to me this summer was that I was in Mexico City, and my husband, myself, and a friend were walking around in this hot sort of new neighborhood in Mexico City, and we were robbed by a guy with a gun. And I'm saying that like I'm not smiling at all when I say that. It was completely traumatic. We're all okay, and that's never happened to me before in my entire life. And my husband, after throwing his phone and his wallet at the guy, he ran off. But we were just shaking. I didn't leave my hotel room for 24 hours. And then we flew home the next day. It was the most traumatic, it was one of the most traumatic experiences that I've ever had. And when we came home, I was really aware that, I had this, I really was having flashbacks and memories, and my body was in this hypervigilance, heart rate going. I was having palpitations, and that I needed to do something to help myself move that through. And which I did, because thankfully I have a lot of mind-body techniques in my back pocket. I have a I have a toolbox, and I started doing some movement exercises, this shaking and dancing, and mostly the shaking to drumming music, and it helped me. And if you're lucky, maybe I'll demonstrate it, although I don't think so today. But the shaking, I had a tool for releasing the stress from my body. And I have resiliency inside me from my daily meditation practice, and I was able to rebound and not end up with some sort of stomach, my gut going, out of balance and developing reflux or other kinds of symptoms, or even inflammation, like arthritis, which can happen through stress affecting the gut, and then you get systemic inflammation. So that's sort of my my little pitch about how you can protect yourself and how it's not inevitable. People shrug their shoulders and throw their hands up and say, well, there's just an inevitability of I'm going to get sick because look at all that stress that happened. And what I'm here to say is, no, you don't have to. You actually can do something to prevent that. And so coming to the topic of today, which is the stress and the gut, it's actually really fascinating because the gut flora, if you think about the lining of your gut, stress comes into your gut. And I think I'm going to just give you 3 examples of how stress affects very directly your gut. The first thing is stress changes your digestion, and it changes your stomach acid production. So you end up, a lot of people share with me, and I'm aware of myself, that there's, you get tense and you get tight and you don't digest your food, and affecting the gut is something people are very aware of. But what it does is, for a lot of people, you don't make as much stomach acid, and there's an erosion of your stomach lining, and so that's why you can feel a little bit of heartburn or gastritis. It's not because you're making more stomach acid. It's actually because your lining of your stomach gets thinned. The mucus protection barrier gets worn away by the direct effects of the stress hormones, as well as by the nervous system that wires into your gut and your stomach. And so the effect on the low stomach acid is that downstream, those bacteria start changing because the amount of stomach acid that you have actually is important for keeping your gut flora, your gut bacteria in balance. So it affects you, and then you won't digest your food so well, and it sits in your stomach, and you get reflux, and all of that digestive stuff can happen just from the change in your digestive power because of the lack of stomach acid. So that's the first thing. The stress hormone cortisol that shoots out and goes up from your adrenal glands when you have a stressful event, like after that thing happened to me in Mexico, I'm sure if I checked my cortisol, I was like on the ceiling, for at least a couple of weeks while I was doing my body work to help it come back in balance. But cortisol actually has a direct effect. It's released into the intestines, and it changes your gut flora. It also has a direct effect on the intestinal lining, and it harms your what are called tight junctions, so that you can get a leaky gut. So too much cortisol and stress hormones will directly cause you to have a leaky gut. And the leaky gut can cause, and we talked about that one of the previous weeks, is, a leaky gut is when your barrier isn't working anymore like it should in your digestive tract, in your intestines, and the partially digested food leaks into your body and causes inflammation. And so arthritis, for example, and autoimmune disease are very much conditions that have a leaky gut at the root of it. And so that's one of the ways that stress can come in and it triggers a leaky gut from the cortisol, but also because the hard wiring, the adrenaline that was giving me palpitations, the adrenaline itself is actually, that's your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, run, panic. And the sympathetic nervous system has nerve endings along your entire intestinal wall, that whole tube from your mouth all the way through your stomach to your small intestine, through your large intestine to your anus and out. That whole lining has nerve endings in it of your sympathetic nervous system. And when you're in fight or flight mode and you're stressed, there's a lot of epinephrine, which is a kind of adrenaline, is secreted or stimulated to be released along your gut. And it can cause motility issues, it can cause change in your gut flora, and it can cause a leaky gut too. And so there's all these ways that stress changes your gut. And so it's important to understand that connection. And one of the reasons it's so important at this moment for you to understand that is because for those of us who are working towards having good gut health, and at the end of the day, preventing chronic illness, preventing systemic inflammation, and inflammation is at the root of all chronic illness, to prevent long-term inflammation and chronic disease, for prevention, right? To reverse any chronic illness or chronic disease that you might have now, having a healthy gut is the most important foundational thing that you can do for your body. So I'll say that again. A healthy gut equals a healthy immune system, which means lower inflammation and less chronic illness that you might have later. And for treating chronic disease, then, if you already have something, you must repair your gut in order to get better. And if you have ongoing stress that is coming into your body, it's going to make it hard for you to repair your gut. It just will undermine all your activities and all your efforts. I have this wonderful young man that I've been working with in Haiti who has actually juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, JRA. And we've been working together. He's getting better and better, slowly. He's 21. And the last time I spoke to him, and it had been 6 months since we had spoken, and he made this huge improvement in both his symptoms. He was able to climb the stairs without his crutches, and he was able to drop in his prednisone, a very big drop since the past 6 months. And I said to him, what's changed? Like, what did you do different? Because we've been, what do you think it was? And he said, I've been meditating every day. And this is a 21-year-old. And I thought, and of course, we think of the young, it's the younger people, us people who have a lot of wisdom, us older folks, we have come to really understand the importance of stress in our lives. And it's hard sometimes to impress that on a younger person. And so I was really, really impressed. And not only that he was practicing meditation every day, but that he was very, very clear. This is what's made a difference. I see a difference in my physical health. I'm really much better. And so that's the main thing I want to leave you with, is that by practicing these things, you can help contribute to your repair work. And if you don't, and the stressors in your life are still coming into your body and continuing to affect your digestion and affect your gut, it's going, as you're trying to repair your gut, it's going to undermine your ability to get completely better. And so, good. I think our 15 minutes are up. That's my whole little pitch today about the importance of stress. And one last thing, actually, I told myself this morning I was going to share. I just want to say something about the election. Now, I am not telling you I don't care who you're voting for. It's not the point that I want to make. The stress of watching what's going on has been unbelievable. I mean, I recently read about Bob Dylan and how he hasn't turned the news on and no one could find him. He won the Nobel Prize and no one could find him because he's been off the grid because he doesn't want to watch the news. I understand that now because this morning I watched the news before coming to work and I was aware I was like so tense and so stressed coming in, and I meditated when I woke up this morning and I wasn't feeling that way, I didn't think. But I was aware of just having this whole sense of sort of dis-ease and unrest in my body. And I really think it was from watching the news this morning. And so I just want to share that I've become too much of a news junkie about this. I can't wait for the election to be over. But this is a stressor. And I think this has been a huge stressor for so many of us. So I'm not watching the news in the morning before work anymore until election day. I decided that on my way to work this morning. So as part of your preventive planning for how to reduce the stressors around you, you might want to turn off that TV and not watch the news for a little bit. Okay, that's my little piece about that. So, any questions? So today, because I'm at the office, yay, I have Sarah with me who's going to read some questions and tell me and help me so I don't have to try to read it. So Sarah.
One from Facebook Live saying, can stress really change the microbiome?
Can stress really change the microbiome is the question, and the answer is absolutely 100% yes. And again, the stress response in the body is twofold. You have a nervous system response, which is your fight or flight sympathetic nervous system. It's actually hard wiring of your nervous system. And you have a hormone effect, which is cortisol, the stress hormone. It's a hormone response to stress, and it's a nervous system response to stress. And when you feel stress in the body, your body responds with those two things. And your nervous system and those hormones are both directly wired into your whole gastrointestinal system, into your stomach, into your whole intestine, small intestine, large intestine. You have nerve endings running the whole length of your whole gut. And when those things fire, when your nervous system is triggered from stress or the hormones are released into your gut, it changes your gut flora. And there are studies that show this. I wrote all about this in my book, The Immune System Recovery Plan. In the Immune System Recovery Plan, I have a whole section devoted to stress. Step 1 is food as medicine. Step 2 is balancing your stress hormones. Step 3 is healing the gut, and Step 4 is supporting your liver with detox to remove toxins. But in Step 2, that whole section of the book, I talk about exactly what stress does and how it does it. And I gave with articles and research studies, and there's studies that show cortisol, the hormone, and that hardwiring nervous system it promotes the increase of bad bacteria in your gut. So you end up with an overgrowth of weeds in the garden, right? Bacteria that trigger increased leaky gut, as well as give you a lot of symptoms, like reflux and bloating. So I hope that answers your question. If not, you can ask another one. Sarah, anything else?
Yes. Are there any simple meditations or breathing techniques you can give our audience?
Yeah, okay, that's a great idea, because actually right before we started today, I got a call from one of my kids and I got totally stressed, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I need to breathe, right? So I was thinking actually today maybe we would breathe together. So one of my favorite exercises that's really, really easy to, and I could use this myself right now because my son got me really stressed out before I started today. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. And I'm like, do you have to call me right now? I'm getting on Facebook Live. Anyway, so my favorite thing, and this is my one of the greatest mentors in my life, James Gordon, who's the founder and director of Center for Mind Body Medicine. This is his teaching, and we have permission, if we give him credit, to teach it to other people, and I teach it to other people in my office every day. It's called soft belly breathing, okay? So let's do that together. I'm going to show you how to do this, and we're going to do it together. So close your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes too, and just listen to my voice. Close your eyes, and I want you to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Keep doing that. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you're breathing in, say to yourself the word soft, and when you exhale, the word belly. So soft on the inhale, exhale belly. And let's just do that for a few breaths together. Soft breathing in through your nose and belly as you exhale. And as you breathe in and then breathing out, as you breathe out, feel your belly flatten. Breathing in and your belly goes out like a balloon, and exhale and your belly flattens. So breathing in the word soft and your belly goes out, and exhale and your belly flattens. So let's do that together for a few breaths. Soft belly. Inhale through your nose. Exhale, belly through your mouth. And sometimes it's helpful to put your hand on your belly. And as you breathe in through your nose, feel your hand go out. And exhale through your mouth, and your hand flattens. You feel your belly flatten. Inhale and exhale. One more time. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth, and your belly flattens. And so now you can open your eyes and come on back and join me again. So, I don't know about you, but I'm speaking a lot slower now. And I really needed that. What comes to mind that I want to share is that when you first practice something like this, and soft belly, you see that was just 3 minutes. We did that together. And it's actually really works quickly, especially when you practice it for a while. So meditation, and that's a meditation. So soft belly breathing is a breathing exercise, right? We used your breath and a focus on the in-breath and the out-breath. It's really a kind of visualization because you're imagining a soft belly, and that's going to sort of enhance the sort of breathing. And the reason we use soft belly, and the reason why I want your belly to expand as you breathe in, is because when your belly goes out, your diaphragms, which are at the base of your lungs, go down. They drop. And you actually get good air exchange at the lowest part of your lungs. And that's where you get the best air exchanges, at the deepest part of your lungs. And unless you breathe deeply, and the diaphragm at the base of your lungs can drop a little bit, most people don't get good air in there. And actually, people who are anxious tend to shallow breathe. And if you try shallow breathing for a little bit, you'll see you're only exchanging air at the top part of your lungs, like up here. And even in yoga, when you do pranayama breathing, the goal is to expand the lungs all the way down at the bases. And so soft belly breathing, when you do inhale and say the word soft, and exhale belly, and on that inhale, when the belly goes out, the diaphragm drops and you exchange air at the deepest part of your lungs. And the vagus nerve, which is your deepest relaxation nerve, runs through your lungs. And so expanding the air in your lungs and getting into those bases is one of the absolute best ways to engage the part of your nervous system that relaxes you, the parasympathetic relaxation system and the vagus nerve. And so if you don't do this kind of breathing, even any kind of deep breathing, and if you like yoga and do yoga breathing, that's another way to get air to really expand your lungs. And so saying to yourself the word soft belly is almost like a mantra, right? It's something you can repeat and focus on to keep your attention here. So any kind of meditation or mindfulness practice, the goal is to stay focused here in this moment. And what that does is it gives you a break from thinking about other things. So while I was focusing on soft belly and I was breathing and teaching it to you, I forgot all about the conversation with my son and the election and all that other stuff and all that sort of noisy background thinking that can take over your thoughts during the day. It goes away because you're focusing on other things. And all meditation practices and all mindfulness and breathing practices want to help you stay focused right here in this moment. So I hope you experience that with the soft belly. And for me, who practices meditation every day, when I can drop in very quickly. And I start practicing that, and after a few breaths, I feel my whole body relax. And if that didn't happen for you, I promise it happens with practice. That's why meditation and meditation, breathing, all these mind-body practices are called practice. Because every day when you practice them, your body learns a habit. Your body learns a reflex. It's your whole, what's called the relaxation response, which is the opposite of your stress response. The relaxation response can actually get triggered and engaged when you practice this. And as it becomes more of a habit and your body learns this practice, it will respond more quickly. You will have that relaxation response engaged sooner and sooner. So for me, it happens within the first minute of sitting down and starting to meditate. But for some people, you might not find you relaxing for 5 or 10 minutes, and it might take you a few sessions even of doing this, every day for a few weeks before you really notice that your body's starting to really truly relax. So there's the answer to your question, and you got me to do a nice, relaxation exercise, which I thank you so much for, because I really needed that myself. So let's see. Any other questions? We've got a few minutes left. About 2 minutes left. That might be the last question.
Meditation, you say that there's an importance in the practice. Any tips on keeping the habit?
So on this topic, tips on keeping the habit for meditation. Like, how do we keep it going? And this actually, I'm so excited because I get to say my new mantra, which is finish what you start. Right? Last week we talked about finishing what you start. I was all into that because that was in something that was very present for me. So a lot of people start a new lifestyle thing, a new idea, a new exercise program, a new meditation program, but we need to, and that's great. But finish what you start. We need to keep you going. You need to find a way to keep it going. And so here are my ideas for doing that. The first thing is to experiment with multiple different kinds of meditation so you can find one you like. If you like it and it agrees with you, you're more likely to do it. So some people actually don't do well with with me giving you this instruction of just sitting and breathing. And your mind wanders and you can't focus. You might want to download an app. And so one of the apps we recommend often is Headspace or Calm. And there are apps on your phone that are breathing apps and meditation apps. And so find an exercise that you like. So that's the first thing. The second thing is make a time every day. It should really be the same time every day and the same place where you're going to do it. We need to create a new habit. And that's really all it is. You need a new habit. And so what I did was I'm an empty nester now. All my kids are out of the house, so I took one of the bedrooms and I made it into a room where we have our Peloton exercise bike, and my whole meditation setup is in that room, and it's in front of the window, and I have like a little, tray that has my bell, and it has my little, some of my little statues of spiritual things I've collected from my travels, and I have my timers and all of that. And my cushion, and it's there all the time. And I wake up in the morning, I get my green tea, and I go sit. And I put my timer on for 20 minutes, and I do it every morning. Now, even though I wake up now and I'm like, I want to watch the news, or I want to do something else, I'm like, no, you do it after you meditate. And I love my 1 shot of espresso I have every morning. I admit it. I'm I'm definitely addicted to my 1 espresso. but I gave it to myself after I meditate. I get to go have my espresso. So I have my routine, and I've been doing it every day for almost a year. And do I miss days here and there? Sure. It took about 3 months for it to really become habit. And so now if I don't go to and meditate when I first wake up, or just walk into that, get my tea, walk into that room, sit down, I feel like I'm a little off, because that's now my habit. So find a way to put it into your daily habit. And, you know, I have some people, and I see we need to wrap up, but I do want to say, like, not everybody can, and I do that before work. It's like the first thing at 6 a.m. that I go do. So everyone, you should be, unless you have little kids in the house, and that's another story, and then you need to find maybe a different way, because you have other obligations as soon as you wake up. For people who work, I mean, I give people there are a lot of ideas, right? So the train home, the train to work, commuting, you know, listen to something spiritual on the radio. Plug in and listen to and follow an app, a meditation app on the train ride home. But it needs to be a habit. So make a decision, and then it's discipline. And you know, the people who are the healthiest, and I'm sure you all know, and you can think about the people you know that are older, or that are, you know, have robust, good health as they're aging, they have a lot of discipline. You know, they really monitor their food, and, you know, they have balance in their lives, and they're disciplined about it. So this is something you need to add. It's called self-care, and you need to create a habit, and then you have to have discipline to finish what you start, you know, and stay with it. And know I hope I gave you a tool to use today, and some information to, you know, and advice about, you know, how to stay with it, and a reason to, and really understand the reason why you need to stay with it, because it will, if you don't, then you put yourself at risk for the gut flora going out of balance, and mood, and it affects other things other than just the gut. You know, it affects mood, it affects hormones, it affects menopause. It's the stress that comes into your body will affect everything. So I think that's it for today. If you have any more questions, you can leave it on the comments section, and I usually try in the next day to go back and answer any questions that people leave me. It's been great spending lunch with you on Tuesday, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Anybody want to post anything that you want me to talk about next week? I actually haven't thought about what I will, but I've been deciding and putting it up before every Tuesday. I'm actually now sort of posting what I'm going to talk about, but I invite you all to give me some suggestions, and then we'll see what's on the agenda for next week. So have a great week, everyone, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.